Hey guys, this is an excerpt from my fantasy novel, The Price of Renewal. I just released this new copy with a brand new cover. I did this over quite some time, drawing each of these characters and putting them together, and it's just a much sleeker looking, awesome new edition of the book. You can get this on Amazon in paperback, hardcover, and ebook. But if the price is too high for anyone and you'd still like to get your hands on the book, I also just released a brand new mass market paperback edition, which is about 4.5 by 7 inches, so quite a bit smaller than this one. And that one is going for only $10. So go ahead and pick up your copy today over on Amazon. I'll put the link in the description. And let's go ahead and get on with this excerpt.
The Price of Renewal by Austin Buffington, Chapter 8. The grand doors to the throne room creaked open. The sound echoed through the vaulted ceilings, blending with the steady crackle of the braziers that lined the length of the room. King Thalric sat rigid on his throne, a heavy ornate chair carved from dark oak and emblazoned with the sigils of his ancestors. His hands gripped the lion-shaped armrests, his gaze fixed ahead, though his thoughts were focused on the discussion at hand. Around him, his advisors murmured in low voices, their faces tense, as if the very walls might betray their words to foreign ears. Maps and scrolls littered the long stone table before them, filled with details of troop movements, supply chains, and most pressing of all, the presence of newly arrived invaders. Across the sea, the Ashkaroth Empire had risen like a tide. They had become the dominant force throughout Ernthal and had now come to Erdania. "Your Majesty," came the voice of Thalric's most trusted advisor, Joran, a hefty sphere of a man who never missed a meal. "The Ashkaroths have seized control of Druenvar. Hundreds are dead. We have taken a considerable hit to the Legion." Thalric continued to stare off into the distance, trying to not get distracted by his vision. The weight of his kingdom's fate pressed down on him like the very stone beneath his throne. Druenvar was their strongest port, the lifeblood of their trade, and now it had slipped through their fingers. In deep contemplation, Thalric began to stroke his dark beard. His gaze hardened as the gravity of the situation sank in. "What are our options?" Joran leaned forward, his brow furrowed in thought. "Clearly, we must rally our forces and take back Druenvar, then proceed with stronger fortifications. It is our most essential trade route." From Thalric's left, another advisor, a tall, wiry man named Calith, who was dressed in an elegant tunic, raised his voice in protest. "That will not be enough. The Ashkaroth Empire boasts legions of well-trained soldiers, far superior to our own. We simply cannot take back the port before they send yet another war party." Thalric leaned back, fingers steepled before him. "Then we must not face an open battle. What of our assassins? Perhaps we can eliminate the Ashkaroth leaders that have taken up position within Druenvar." "It is a thought," interjected Rory, the brawny woman in command of the Erdanian Legion, dressed in an ornate surcoat. "The Legion is far outnumbered by the invading Ashkaroths, but a less frontal attack may grant us some leverage. If we can destabilize their leadership, it would shatter the organization of their troops." "We will need a distraction to draw the attention away from the palace," Joran countered. "Perhaps we could send a word to the surrounding villages and muster up a rebellion on the outside of Druenvar's citadel." "It is a solid idea," agreed Calith, "but the townsfolk are already fearful of the invaders. It would be difficult to inspire them to leave their homes and take such a risk." "Fear is our enemy now," Thalric declared, leaning forward. "If they refuse, they may very well no longer have homes to go back to." Thalric rose from his throne, the weight of command shifting onto his shoulders. Resolute in his solution, he raised a fist that hung in front of his full beard and declared his plan. "We shall call upon the veil-bound assassins. I will ride to the villages myself and speak directly to the hearts of the people." But sir, Rory hesitated, her voice weighed down by the duty to protect her king. That would be a tremendous risk, you being out in the open. A risk we must take, Captain, Thalric replied. I do not see another way. The large double doors once again creaked open. The sound echoed through the throne room, interrupting the meeting. My lord, an armored guard shouted as he entered through the doorway, followed by 2 more guards in identical armor, holding between them an unassuming man wearing a black tunic. We have apprehended the priest. We will finish this in a moment, Thalric said to his entourage of advisors. He could hear the echo of boots against the stone floor and the clatter of armor as the guards entered. Bring him before me. I shall question this man and decide his fate. The guards hauled Aldenor down the length of the table and dropped him to his knees on the stone floor before the throne. Aldenor made no attempt to resist. Fighting simply was not his nature. The now discomforted expressions of the men to the king's left and right were fixed upon him. The heavy scent of burning coal hung in the air, mingling with the faint musk of old stone. King Thalric's piercing gaze locked onto the captured priest. His lips curled in distaste, as if the very sight of a man of faith was an affront to his senses. His advisors shifted in their seats, the tension palpable. So, Thalric began, his booming voice bouncing off the throne room walls, you are the priest that has wandered into my unhallowed citadel. Surely you've come to whisper poisoned words into the ears of my people. Aldenor winced as his calf ached from the wound he had sustained in the chapel ruins. The pain was far more noticeable now that the chaos had calmed. Tell me, priest, the king spat, the word priest dressed with a dollop of distaste. How many lives have you ruined with the promises of your false god? He leaned forward, his knuckles turning white as the tension in his hands reflected that of the room. His voice dripped with scorn as he spoke. Do you come here to preach? To tell me your invisible god will somehow save us from Ashkaroth legions? What say you? I know nothing of these legions you speak of, Aldenor said, his voice wavering with fright. I have come to Stonereach only in search of safe passage to Druenvar. Ha! The imposing king let out a cold chuckle. Druenvar is far from the safest place you can be right now. I think you would be far better off within the protection of our dungeon. What imaginary god is it that you worship? Saranath, the god of vitality, your majesty, Aldenor replied, his wound pulsing with the beat of his heart. The very real god. Thalric rose from his throne and clomped down the steps to meet Aldenor where he knelt. The king crouched down and brought his face so close to the reverends that Aldenor could almost feel the tickle of a stray beard hair. Saranath is no god, you gullible fool. He is a make-believe story, used to deceive the weak-minded into performing the heinous practice of hemocraft. Hemocraft? There was that word again. Aldenor found himself yet again distracted by Anna Winleth's accusation. Lately, multiple people had suggested the falsity of his god, and these words kept resurfacing in their criticism. Hemocraft. Magic. How could so many people not understand the blessing of Saranath? The king remained in a crouch, his eyes locked onto Aldenor's, as he contemplated what to do with the pest who had so boldly decided to enter his kingdom. Thalric detested the practice of religion, and none more than the so-called covenant of renewal. They had consistently made tribute to their god through the sacrifice of animals, a bizarre act that he could only ascribe to the practice of black magic. You perform sacrifices to your god in a desperate attempt to retain your youth, he began, spit launching from his mouth onto Aldenor's face. In the days of Eld, the tributes made were that of trees and crops, so says your tome. Yet now your religion resorts to the slaughter of animals. The sacrifices are necessary, my lord, Aldenor replied. This is our covenant to our god. The tribute of plants was not enough for Saranath to gift his promise of vitality, so the scriptures say. What will come next, priest? Human sacrifice seems the logical step in this progression. Plant life was not enough, surely animals will no longer be enough either. That is absurd, Aldenor protested. Saranath is a loving god. He would not call for the sacrifice of humans. He only wishes to improve our health. Thalric turned away from Aldenor and climbed the stairs back to his throne. To the dungeon with him. I will not stand for such contamination within the walls of Stonereach. Once again, the guards grabbed Aldenor by the arms. Wait, he shouted in protest. I must complete my task. I have been called to it directly by Lord Saranath. Thalric assaulted Aldenor with an unsympathetic glare. We will see if your Saranath can perform one of his miracles and free you from your imprisonment. Now, with no hope remaining, Aldenor finally began to fight, flailing his arms and planting his feet firmly onto the floor in an attempt to keep from being dragged, but the guards were too strong. Saranath, help me, he prayed. Aldenor was overcome with fear. How would he reach the end of his journey now? How would he retrieve Anna Winlith and bring her back to Oakenwood? From the little time Aldenor had spent outside the village on his journey so far, it was obvious why Saranath was so desperate to stop Anna from spreading her disbelief. Already so many people had turned away from him. In a panic, his heels scraped against the floor as he was pulled back the way he'd arrived, his feet scrabbling for purchase. His arms flailed, but the men's iron grips never wavered. With little difficulty, the guards of Thalric's watch ignored his futile resistance and lugged the thrashing priest down the length of the room and out the open doors. A humble priest sent on a mission by his god. A lonely thief trying to find her way in the world. A wizard's apprentice on a quest for liberation. Follow Aldenor, Naya, and Anna as they venture through Erdania and uncover the hidden truth of the Covenant of Renewal, a dying religion with a gray morality. Read the hit book, The Price of Renewal, by Austin Buffington, available on Amazon.